Coming up, the Bruins get revenge in Vegas and a lucky win in Columbus. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. We are ready to recap all of the action for you from the NHL on Sunday. We're going to start out with a game in Vegas. It came down to a thrilling shootout win for Vegas the last time they played the Bruins. But this Sunday, the Bees got some revenge for one of their few losses so far this season. They got a 3-1 win. Locked On Golden Knights and Locked On Bruins have a full recap.
The shorthanded Golden Knights fall 3-1 at home to the Boston Bruins. Hey everyone, Chris Golick, Locked On Vegas Golden Knights here. Good start for VGK, right? Everything seemed like it was going okay. They took a 1-0 lead going to the second period. Power play goal, Mark Stone. Certainly a very welcome sight, but unfortunately, too many of our big guns are out in this one. Eichel, Pietrangelo, just to name a couple. Zach Whitecloud goes down now. Tough times ahead for the VGK. Folks, for everything Vegas Golden Knights, please check out Locked On Vegas Golden Knights anywhere you find your podcasts, your team every day.
Less than a week after Bruce Cassidy and the Vegas Golden Knights ended the Boston Bruins' record-setting home win streak to begin a season, the Black and Gold returned the favor by beating Vegas in their own arena on Sunday. This is Ian McLaren, host of Locked On Boston Bruins, and it was Linus Ullmark who stole the show in this game, stopping 30 of 31 shots against. The only goal he gave up was the game opener to Mark Stone, and it was all Bruins from there as Patrice Bergeron, Jake DeBrusk, and Charlie Coyle got on the board and earned the win over the Vegas Golden Knights and their former coach, Bruce Cassidy. The Bruins are now 22-4-1, have split the season series with the Vegas Golden Knights, and Linus Ullmark definitely belongs in the Vezina Trophy conversation.
Sometimes in sports, you don't have to necessarily be great. You just have to be lucky. And Columbus had luck on their sides in a 6-5 overtime win over the Kings yesterday. Locked On Blue Jackets in to explain how things ended.
So that was a weird one, huh? Jay Foster, Locked On Blue Jackets here. The Blue Jackets win 6-5 in overtime on just the stupidest goal. Johnny Gaudreau gets the winner. Well, technically Kevin Fiala gets the winner, but officially it will go to Johnny Gaudreau. 4-point night for Jack Roslovic. Johnny Gaudreau hits 31 points on the season in like 26 games. It's all slowly coming together. I still don't know if this is a very good team, but they started to put together some fun games. Don't love that they allowed 5 goals on about 40 shots, but hey, a win like that, I'll take it, because at the end of the day, it was fun. And I'd rather have fun wins than not fun wins. So we're going to talk about the win and everything else on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Blue Jackets, wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Until then, make sure you stay locked on.
The Kraken got some much-needed offense on the road in Florida on Sunday. Locked On Kraken, happy to give you all the details on the win.
Hey, Seattle hockey fans, coming to you live from Florida. No, I'm not at the game, but the Seattle Kraken took care of business on the road, getting their 9th win away from Climate Pledge Arena. Big game for the offense. 5-2 win against the Florida Panthers. Matty Beniers opened up the scoring in the first period, and eventually, over time, the Seattle Kraken figured out the Florida defense and were able to get this win on the road. Went 1 for 4 on the power play. Overall, a really strong game. We have to make sure that we check up, though, on Justin Schultz. Took a really bad hit, led to a major penalty, a 5-minute power play for the Seattle Kraken. We were able to score our 4th goal on that power play, and then Yanni Gourde gets an empty netter. We'll talk more about this on Monday's edition of Locked On Kraken.
Coming up, the Caps get a win and Ovi inches closer to 800. This is Locked On Game to Game NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by BetOnline. It is the #1 spot for all of your online sports betting needs. Whatever sport you are interested in, if it's UFC, if it's football, you're getting in on the World Cup action, you can do that at betonline.net. It's where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NHL. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Arizona's Clayton Keller got his first career hat trick in dramatic fashion with the OT game winner over Philly last night. Locked On Flyers is in to talk over that loss.
Russ Cohen here from the Locked On Flyers podcast. Flyers fell to the Arizona Coyotes 5-4 in overtime. The Flyers are now 0-5. In overtime, 2-7-2 in their last 11. Travis Konecny tied up the game late with the extra attacker on the ice. The overtime was going the Flyers' way for a while. They had the possession, but then just another play by Clayton Keller, who ended up with a hat trick. 4-point night, first one of Morgan Frost's career. James Van Riemsdyk had 3. Tippett had 2. Some good play by some. Obviously, both goaltenders were hung out to dry. Carter Hart had to try and stop a couple of breakaways. Interesting game, just not good enough for the Flyers. And that's it. They lose 5-4 in overtime. Catch us on the podcast.
The Caps stay hot with a win over the Central Division leading Winnipeg Jets. Locked On Capitals goes over that victory, and Ovechkin inching closer to history.
Washington Capitals beat the Winnipeg Jets by a score of 5-2 and make it 4 in a row. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. The Capitals score 4 goals in the second period to beat the first place Winnipeg Jets. Make no mistake about it. This is a Washington Capitals team that is engaged in firing on all cylinders. The Capitals have earned 15 points in their last 10 games, which is tied for the second most in the NHL since November 23rd. It was also a big night for Alex Ovechkin as Ovi got number 797 on, you guessed it, an empty netter. He's 4 goals shy of Gordie Howe's second all-time. Ovechkin is on pace to score 46 goals this season. Should Ovechkin reach the 40-goal mark, it would mark his 13th career 40-goal season, passing Wayne Gretzky 12 for the most in NHL history. Just a really special night for the Washington Capitals. It also saw goals by Evgeny Kuznetsov, Lars Eller, Alex Ovechkin, Marcus Johansson, and Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Just a team that is playing all in. It's a team that's pulling on the rope, and they hope to continue in their winning ways as they take on the Blackhawks on Tuesday. Keep it locked to Locked On Capitals, and I will keep you updated on all the news with your Washington Capitals. Locked On Capitals, your team every day.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On NHL and your favorite team's Locked On podcast, both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.